This whole series, in case you're new to it, it all started from the desire of like people wanting to hear how others met. I think in this journey of finding someone, finding your partner in life, um, just no, just it's not always easy, or there's so many different ways. And I think that hearing other people and how they were able to meet, how they were able to make their relationship go forward into a blessing, a marriage, is all really fun information to find out, and maybe it can give you some tips and tricks on how something might work for you. And so if you're, there's also parents that join in this call. I think it's really awesome that you guys are joining us too, because I think it can give a lot of good ideas on, and realizing that in this process, there's so many different ways, and it's not always the same, and it's not always have to be like by the books. So I think just hearing all these stories is very valuable. And so I'm really grateful for everyone on this call. Okay, so we're just going to jump into it again. The first couple that I want to introduce, I know you can kind of already see because we were already chatting in the behind the scenes, but that's a beautiful biracial couple, and I'm really excited to get to know their story, because most people that come on the call I kind of know a little bit, but I don't know them, and so I'm really excited to hear how they met and how they were able to come together. They've been married now for their names are Hyomi and Godis Akra, and they are beautiful couple, and they've been married now for almost 5 years. So I'm excited to invite them up, Hyomi and Godis. Welcome to our webinar.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. All right, so I guess we will jump right in. So Godis and I met back in 2012. At the time, I was actually working with Generation Peace Academy. So I was the overseas coordinator, the overseas service coordinator. That summer, I had graduated college, and I actually spent the summer in Chunkyung. So I was there for we had a little blackout thing, 40 day workshop. And basically, the last day that I was there for that workshop was the same day that father passed away, and it was totally coincidental. But I really took that period of time that I spent in 2012 as kind of a sort of a new starting point. There were a lot of changes that were happening at the time in church, and a lot of transitions that we were going through as a movement. And so I kind of took that as a sign. And as it turned out, 2012 was definitely a year of changes. So my first assignment actually for the Generation Peace Academy service project was in Guyana. I had never been to Guyana before. It was actually my first time in the Caribbean or South America. And Guyana kind of claims both. They are Caribbean by culture, but geographically South America.
That's correct.
Yes. So I actually met Godis's parents first, because they have been managing a children's home, basically an orphanage or children's home, for the past 28 years.
25.
Well, it was 25 at the time. Yeah. So, so around that time, we were doing a project here at Joshua House Children's Center, where we currently live in Guyana, as well as with Habitat for Humanity. So Godis and I were introduced by another staff member from GPA. And initially, we actually didn't talk that much. He and I had very limited interactions for maybe less than 5 minutes. So we really didn't talk. I was very busy with the team, and he was studying at the university at the time.
Yeah, conversation was really minimal.
Minimal, yeah.
Yeah.
So after GPA, the following year in 2013, I actually was deployed to Swaziland as a Peace Corps volunteer. And ironically, it was when I was even further away geographically that Godis and I ended up connecting. I would say his initiation, he started messaging me kind of periodically in a friendly way on Facebook. And probably about 6 months into my service, we just, started talking more. It was almost exclusively at that point over Facebook Messenger. Just to give you a little background, where I was posted in Swaziland was this very rural community. I had this little brick, Nokia phone that was very limited in terms of what it could do. It had basically WhatsApp and Facebook as ways to communicate. So around the time, I would say that December, that we started speaking more frequently, I think on my end, I had started to talk to my parents about it. It hadn't really turned into anything, but just as, he was now on my radar. And I think, Godis, I'm not exactly sure of the timeline, but you were also talking to your parents or mentioning me to your parents.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we actually both had profiles on Matchbook, but they were both hidden. So we had invisible profiles.
Invisible.
Yes. So we kind of missed each other there. We both had our own reasons for why we were invisible at the time.
But actually, for me, I had no idea it was invisible until you pointed it out to me when we were finding it.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Okay. So by January, we were, pretty much talking every day by text or phone. And I'm the kind of person who really values communication up front. So, we'd be talking about everything, anything and everything, our personalities, our hopes, our dreams, things that were important to us, things we even talked about, what we valued or did not really wish for in a partner. We were just very open about that, yet still kind of beating around the bush of talking about the matching directly. So we're still kind of
like fishing and feeling
each other
and
out.
showing that we both can connect to this particular level or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the while I was kind of talking to my parents, sort of letting them know generally what was going on. But my parents at least were very hands-off about the process. I think I can say for both of us, our parents were just like really relieved that we were interested and we were talking about it, and that we were taking initiative. So they're like, all right, go for it.
Great.
He's a second gen, that's fine. Okay. So we actually connected pretty quickly. We talked about all kinds of things. And of course, he comes from a very different culture. I'm American. He's Caribbean, Guyanese. The way we think about things is different some of the time. He also speaks like a slightly different brand of English. So sometimes, we have communication things that come up.
But Creolese in Ghana.
Right. But we did find ways to connect despite that, both the kind of cultural differences as well as the 6-hour time difference that we were dealing with at the time when I was in Swaziland. So we actually even wrote and produced a song together. He raps and produces music and I sing. So we had something to kind of bond over, and we actually found a way to create this song while he was in his country and I was in mine. And that would become the first of many collaborations. In terms of sort of spiritual preparation, we did a fasting condition and a prayer condition. And then pretty much like 2 months, 2 months after we started communicating, I don't know if it was just kind of a inspiration that I felt on Foundation Day. It was also the blessing of 2014 that I sort of broached the topic finally. And I actually kind of just upfront told him that if he was interested, I would also be interested in pursuing this. And how did you feel about that?
And I was like a bit quite surprised because her birthday is a month after, in April, and my plan was to, 2 months after that is, my plan was to pop the question and ask if she's actually interested in that month, her birth month, but that didn't happen like that.
Yeah, so we basically decided that same week that we were just going to go for this, take the leap of faith. Our parents were very supportive of it. And so Godis visited me for the first time in August of 2014. now in the capacity of a couple about to be matched. And we had our engagement ceremony with the very small Swazi Unification Church community. It was basically just two families who were there who helped us officiate the process. Our parents tuned in via tablet.
Yeah.
And that was actually a really special moment because that would be the last time that I would actually talk to Godis's father, because his father passed the following year, a few months later. But it was, I still remember, you know, his face and how excited he was for us to be getting matched and taking this step. So yeah, so I think I'll pass it off to Godis from there.
Yeah, so that was actually the only moment, or the last time as Hyomi pointed out, that she got to speak to my dad directly. But moving forward, it was uh, kind of like a bittersweet moment for me coming into 2015 when we took our relationship to the next level and planning on receiving the blessings and so forth. It was a lot for me emotionally, knowing that the last words my dad said to me when I decided to go to the matching blessing, he was like, "I'm very proud of you that you're taking this process on and you're moving forward in this path and so forth." So the fact that he actually wasn't there to see us get matched physically, this was a bit of a bittersweet moment, but I knew he was actually watching on from the spirit world and quite happy that we're going along in this process. So it was like a long distance relationship for a short period after me visiting Swaziland and so forth, and we planning and getting to know each other a bit more, and getting more and more serious about, okay, yes, you're gonna do this, you're gonna plan this like this, because we both were in university at the time and we were trying to like find a perfect time that we both would have leave in order to take the blessing and so forth. So that happened late into 2015. And in 2016, we then eventually got legally married. I would then visit her twice a year. And actually, the first time I met her parents was when we got blessed, right?
Yeah, when we got blessed in 2015.
When we got blessed in
The first time you saw
2015.
my parents,
Yeah, the first time I saw her parents, physically,
and
that
the
is,
family.
and the family. And again, it was a bittersweet moment, you know, seeing her dad and then remembering that, okay, you know, my dad should have been here to see this and see us go forward with the blessing and so forth. So it was a lot for me going through that entire process. So at a point in time, basically I was like moving through the motion, trying to take things lightly, you know, kind of trying to grab what is happening, but I was there and not there at the same time, you know, but I knew that it's something that I wanted, and I knew it's something that also my family would have been happy to see me conclude or go through and achieve. So in 2017, we she she decided to move down to Ghana after she graduated from university, so that, or grad school that is. You guys call it different, yeah. Yeah, grad school, to take our relationship to another level, away from distance and long distance, so that we can be together within one space and plan together as a family and how we're going to move forward. You know, she then got a job, and I was working at the time also. Well, still working, we both are, and we were planning on how we're going to move forward, how we're going to um, uh, plan our family into the future and really develop our relationship, you know.
So yes, I think that's basically our summary
of how we met and how things happen and how our marriage progressed. So from when we met to where we are at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. Thank you guys. That was awesome. It was very nice to you. So you guys are living in Guyana right now?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Oh wow. Okay, so wait, what time is it for you?
It's EST, same time,
yeah,
9:17 p.m.
9:17 p.m.
Oh, okay, okay. I was like,
We're just directly south. We just keep going down south. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know where you guys were. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for telling your story. Yeah, like I was just kind of, yeah, I loved how that whole phrase of like taking that leap of faith, right? And you both were very open, communicating, writing music together. I was like, you guys seem like the perfect couple. And the fact that you guys can find each other different parts of the world, right? And
Yeah.
uh, even though there was like that international like barrier kind of thing, like long distance, and a lot of times that scares people, right? That scares people, the distance. Or like, if that they're that far, they have to be all in America or has to be at least close by. But you didn't care. You guys, yeah, went beyond that, and that's so cool. And I love it. Yeah, you guys had such open communication, talking about everything, and eventually you both were like, "This would, why wouldn't this work?" And you both had plans on how we're gonna just say it. You guys both like, yeah, you both had that feeling that this feels right. And yeah, really, really cool. And I think your dad definitely is really proud, and like you guys make such a great couple. So anyways, if anybody has any questions, please put it in the chat. Isaac's collecting them, and then right after the next testimony, we will go through these questions. And so we'll get back to you guys. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
thank you so much for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next couple that I'm going to introduce, another awesome couple. Their names are Hyoyoung and Leilani. I was going to say Owens, but Joe Pease, sorry. Hyoyoung and Leilani Joe Pease, and they're from Florida, but they've been blessed for 8.5 years. And another fun couple that I think you guys are going to really love their story too. So let's welcome up Hyoyoung and Leilani Joe Pease.
Hey everyone. I wish we could see you guys, but we can't. But thanks for joining our call. It was funny, Shizika, actually, when you mentioned that the other couple was coming and you mentioned Godis, I was like, that name is so familiar. And then I realized I went to Guyana for my student project.
I was like, she looks annoying. I think I know.
That was 2010, so it was 10 years ago. I was also at the Joshua House. It's just crazy how I love our church. Everything, can still connect even though you're so far away. That's definitely a great trip, and it's good to see you again.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is my husband, Hyoyoung. My name's Leilani. Last name is Owens, but with his name is Joe Pease. And we've been blessed for 8.5 years now, so a really long time. We've been together for over 10 years, and it's definitely been one of the best things
That's all right.
one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So yeah, I was going to share my side first, and then afterwards he was going to share his side. But we were obviously really young when we I was really young. You're a little bit older than me. I was really young when we got together. I was 18, and going back to high school. I mean, when I was younger, I was in high school, and I was, I still had my church friends, but I was, I still had my other friends, and I was very involved in school, and so I kind of was in and out of the church a little bit, but I still always felt like I believed in God and I believed in your parents, but sometimes it was just hard to follow, at that teenage girl, high school age. But after I kind of went through that near the end of high school, I started reconnecting back with the church and finding more community. And I feel like through that, I was able to just see something that was really beautiful in our church, something that I just couldn't find. The same feeling just wasn't back at school with my school friends. And, so I wanted to really stick with the church path and what it had for me. And so I started volunteering with my church youth group. I was in New Jersey at the time. I grew up in New Jersey. And I went to the Clifton Church Center, and I helped out with the Go staff. So I went to Go and I attended Go, which is the youth group. And then once I got old enough, they let me be a part of the staff. And I think that was one of the, best things for me. Was it just really helped me to get good friends and good friends of faith, and also start to develop myself as in more of a leadership role and start to mature. And it's funny because when I first started college, I was a staff at Go, and he was actually on STF at the time. He was in his second year, so he was a witnesser at 43rd Street. That was the time during Love and Life, when Love and Life was around, and it was just so much going on and so many things to do. And so he was, very close by, and every Saturday they would come to our Go staff meetings and hangouts, and they would also help out with the youth group. And he caught my eye because
I was spying for her.
all of the, everyone that came, kind of like all the STFers, they kind of came and they hung out with the staff, right? But he was always off, and I specifically remember he was off like on the other side of the room, just hanging out with the kids and talking with the kids. Maybe because you are a kid at heart, but he was always with the kids, and I really appreciated that. I respected that so much. I'm like, oh, you're not just here to hang out, like you're actually here to help out and be here for the kids. So that definitely stuck in my mind. And when I started, at that time thinking about the matching, I really do think for the most part, I did have a good motivation. I did, believe in the matching process and the blessing. I wanted that for myself. I believed in God, your parents, and this is the path that I had. But also, there was definitely a part of me that was also wanting to do it because everyone else was doing it. And I think it's very easy, especially at that age, to get caught up with, oh, it's a thing to do in our church, right? It's a thing to do. Oh, they got matched. I'm looking for someone, right? And so I do think I had a good motivation, though. And so I really started praying about it. And I was just praying every day for three things. I was praying for someone who had a good heart, someone who had good faith, and someone who had a good family. Not good looks. But those three things are really important to me. And I felt like those values were something that was just like non-negotiable, and something I really wanted in whoever I was going to be with. So as time went by, I was praying about this, and then a couple months later, I get a call, from his parents. His parents contacted me, and so we started talking. And I mean, I knew him from like sight, but I haven't really, sat down and have a conversation with him. And so it was a little bit awkward at first, and it was just crazy. By like 2 months, we're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and we decided to get matched in 2 months. And it's funny because when we first started the call here, some people were like, oh, I remember you guys from your big proposal that you did at one of the Love and Life galas. And yeah, I think a lot of people saw that, and it was such a cool, creative thing, but it was still so early in our relationship. Looking back, like we were only together for 2 months. And so as we started going through our matching process, I went to STF, and then he went back home, and it actually started getting really hard for me. I started having a lot of doubts because I realized that I felt like a foundation wasn't there. Like I didn't really know him at all. I started noticing that, maybe our humor wasn't the same. Like he would think something's funny, and I'm like, that's not funny. And, it was just like a lot of things started to create friction. And so I started to doubt a lot. And it's funny because a few months later, our parents asked if we wanted to go to the blessing in Korea, because I had a free trip to Korea. So they were like, why don't you just go for the blessing? But I just felt like I wasn't ready. Like I still had doubts in my mind. And I do think that came from not fully having the right motivation sometimes, and also just not having the foundation that we really knew each other. And for me, I realized like I thought I was the type of person who can have the faith and commitment, just jump in, but I really needed to know him. And so we actually spent like 1.5 years in our matching to just get to know each other. And so I visited him in Florida. He was amazing. He would like leave me notes, send me mail while I was on STF. Even when I was in Guyana, I got a mail from him. And he was just really trying hard to keep the relationship going. And I think in the end, he really won me over with that. He just didn't give up. And as we got to know each other better, I really got to know who he was. But also I started to see more that he had those three things that I was praying for. He had a really good heart. His family's amazing. And he also just has, he did really have a strong belief in God too. And I didn't even know at the time, but he was doing so many conditions just to keep us together, and he wouldn't even tell me. So at some point, a year and a half later, I finally felt like, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I'm ready to go to the blessing. And I just felt so much more comfortable with him. And I'm glad we're able to just build that foundation together. And so after that, we got blessed. And then a few months later, I moved down to Florida. And now I just love Florida so much. But even in the beginning, like even the first probably couple years or few years together, I just feel like we're so different than how we were now. We were very different in points of view and how, we saw things. And I really felt like through our blessing, because our values were aligned and because we both really value commitment, it helped to have us grow together. And, now years later, I feel like we've become the same person. Like our humor is the same. We're thinking the same. I would have never, like, before him gone to the gym or, like, think about kayaking. And now it's like all we do. And, it's just our lifestyles have really started to blend together. And I feel like we've kind of molded into, but not changed in a bad way, but like we really grew into people that can be for one another. And I do think it's because we were able to solidify our foundation. I also do believe, because we both strongly believe in commitment, that like whatever happens, we just can't break this. It's bounded by faith. And I think we were able to both just see that we had a lot of heart in the process, heart for each other. We did have faith in it. And especially his family was just so welcoming to me too, that it just really helped to make everything so much better. And through that, I was able to just kind of see, back from the beginning, that it's not the small things like, oh, our humor's different. Oh, maybe like he's not exactly my type, but we learned to really come together. And I've learned to really just see him for all the amazingness that he is. And now I'm always the one that's like, I love you. Like he just, it's just, I've learned to really love him and grow with him. And it's just like this journey has just been, it's really a blessing. It's not just like the lingo anymore. It actually is a blessing for me in my life. And I really see how God has brought us together, because we both needed what we were lacking, but we both had the same values that kept us together. So yeah, now we're doing good and living life.
All right, that's it. I'm done.
Well, your side was a little bit different, so.
All right, so anyways, my side was I did 2 years of STF. So pretty much like prior to STF, I felt like I lived a double life, and I feel like a lot of BCs are like that. So doing STF, my first year, at least, I really tried to commit on myself, my personality, who I am, whatever, is this church for me? And then once I solidified that, I felt like trying to be a good son to my parents, good sibling, just good individual around. My second year, actually I told my friends prior to going to, when I did my first year, I was like, if I do a second year of STF, you gotta knock me out. Like I can't, I'm crazy if I do a second year. And I did a second year, funny enough. But I know the second year was really more for, I wanted to develop myself as a, spouse, And so I did witnessing, and actually I was gonna be a captain, fundraising, all that stuff. But, I felt like witnessing was good for me to solidify my faith, because I feel like if I can't witness to anybody about what my faith is, and what do I know about my faith? So anyways, second year comes around, I'm witnessing, I'm living in New York City, love and life's going on. So I'm, trying to invest into who I am, and then I go, and I try to be friendly with all the kids, get to know them, just trying to, I guess when you witness to yourself, you become proud of who you are and your church, and you kind of want to spread that with others. And in the meantime, this pretty girl comes by, and for some reason she kind of had everything I wanted. She was active in the church, she was talented, but not only that, I can see she was very firm in her belief. At least, that's what I thought. Or no, she is very firm in her belief. What I'm saying.
What's that supposed to mean?
So, for a year, my second year, I just like praying a lot about, who I am and if I'm not ready to be someone's spouse. And then so I brought the idea to my mom, the whole thing. My mom said no the first time. She's like, no, something with, family and whatever. But, eventually, my mom gave in and, right away, she just called her parents and they said yes, and then just kind of just locked it in and got matched like that. But but pretty much the matching process was 2 months. We talked. It was not too deep, but I felt like just from watching her and seeing how she is with her faith, and I felt like she had everything I needed, and that I felt like I was ready. And so actually, even though I didn't know her that well, our second month or third month, there was a big gala, winter gala. Maybe some of you guys know about it. I mean, this is.
Oh no, it was summer. It was summer.
It was summer gala. This is during Love and Life. I didn't really know her, but I wanted to do something big. I wanted to actually propose to her.
Tell them why you want to do this.
So the reason why I want to propose to her, and this is a big proposal actually. I don't know how many people, 300 or more. I don't know. But the reason why I want to propose, because I feel like anything I do big in my life, I try to put it out there. And if I put it out there, I can't turn my back. I can't go back on it. So I want to propose in front of her, not knowing her that well. But if anything were to go on, if I was struggling with her, I'm like, I proposed to all these people. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to try my best. This is a commitment I made in front of my friends and family and God. And so I proposed to her, and I wish we had a video of it, but
it's probably
somewhere. Anyways, so I proposed to her. That went down, and then post STF, and you might hear this a lot, like, oh, you go to STF, you get that high life, you want to a lot of, like, you kind of go back to your regular life, and I was not I'm very loose in a lot of things I do, but she saw that I was not I don't know. Go ahead.
I think at that point, like, I was just kind of doubting a lot of things. So any small mistake he made, it wasn't even a mistake. It was just like any small thing he did, I just suddenly used that to kind of, create doubt and push him away, saying it was him when I, looking back, it was me.
Okay. It was her, not me. But
that's what I tell you all the time. It was all me.
But yeah, I mean, during the time we were struggling a lot, I tried my best. I think mainly it was also like, she was my first love. I really loved her, even though I didn't really know her that well. But I think that's like with a lot of BCs or Moonies, when you're first matched or whoever you're with, you really fall hard for them. And she was my first. So I really tried my best every day. I write her letters, I tell her, because she was on STF, so I know her captains. I'm like, hey, let her know I love her, or let her know I wrote, I write this down. I'm like, hey, give it to her somehow, chocolate. Even Guyana, yeah, I gave someone, one of my friends, a chocolate bar and a letter to bring to her all the way in Guyana, right? That's, that's how much even on Valentine's Day, I was there before. I put a little card, I put into her wallet, and I left. And then it was like a couple weeks later, I'm like, oh, go check your wallet. And then she's like, what the hell?
He was trying very hard.
How'd you put that there? How'd you put that letter there? I was like, magic, but God's will. No, I tried my best. I was even like doing like 120 bows for 40 days or more. I mean, I'm just, trying my best, praying and reflecting. So, and then I guess like, she went to STF, post STF for her, maybe kind of STF grounded her, at least, I think. Yeah. STF grounded her. And she was able to see me for who I am and seeing all my commitments. And since then, she moved to Florida and she got to see the real package, who I am, and and so far it's been really good.
You've been the best thing. Changed my life. Yeah, I tell him all the time. I'm always like, you're the best thing that happened to me, and it's just amazing. I feel like we're so lucky, and now it's funny because he was a witnesser, but, now he still witnesses to people, but just naturally, like always telling his friends, especially when he was in grad school, they know us, and we use our marriage, we use our blessing as a witnessing tool. People know who we are. They see how strong we are. And then once we tell them that we were actually in like this big mass wedding, right. They're like, wow, that's so cool, because they know us. And I think it's really been a great tool to help.
I definitely believe that, you live a testimony. Like if you're really not having a good relationship with your spouse, and then you say I mean, I feel like, at least for us, like, I feel like people see how we are really good together. They see that we do everything well. We never fight, or at least we don't have any confrontations. And I tell my friends, like, when they get close to me, I'm like, hey, you want to see a Google image? I'll show you like an article, like front page is like me and Leilani on, mass wedding. I'm like, hey, see, that's us. I'm like, whoa, that's you guys. I'm like, yeah, I should read this. It's not even our church article, actually. It's a pretty cool article. But it's pretty much about how, like, we all come together, arranged marriages, and we're blessed with, Confucianism, Buddhism, Islam, and things like that. Like, that's something like a lot of people want. People think of, like, bringing, different religions together. I mean, right now you look in the world, there's a lot of division right now. And I mean, like, when you tell people, like, we're trying to break down barriers, what race, we talk about race, like, we have, Hyomi and Godis, they're, definitely Asian and Black. I mean, that's very odd. That's very different, like, I'm half Korean, half Cuban,
Yeah, and I had to really learn and understand his Cuban side too, and his Cuban culture, which is great. So yeah, we definitely use our blessing as a tool to witness, but we just do it just naturally. And I really think that God has blessed us with bringing us together. But I think just with constantly prayer for the things that really matter is just so important. And yeah, especially just a little advice too, just always letting go of like little things that don't matter. It really helps to just keep everything just light and happy and free. So anyway, yeah, that's our story. Shizuka, you want to take over from?
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you guys so much. I feel like I've heard bits and pieces, but I don't think I've ever heard of the whole thing like this, like your whole story. And I mean, we're friends because my sister's in Florida, so I know you guys from Florida, and it's just so awesome. I really, really loved how, I feel like matching processes, even though, yeah, you made a quick decision, but then you didn't rush to go to the blessing. And I feel like you were able to kind of sort out, you kind of took a step back and wanted that foundation going into marriage. And I think that is a big thing to decide on, because some people just kind of like rush into it maybe. And what I really loved also is that you didn't just write Hyoyoung off, because maybe in the beginning you could have wrote him right off, right? Because you were just like, oh, he doesn't, for whatever, you're just like, oh, this is this, and you could just said no. But you kind of gave time. You guys were very, very thoughtful and prayerful about it. And I'm not saying everyone has to be super prayerful, because I don't know who's on listening to this call. Maybe they're not, their faith level. Everyone's different, right? But you guys put a lot of thought and effort into it. And then you were able to recognize his value through time. You're like, he does actually fulfill my, what I'm looking for. And I think it was very valuable also knowing what you want. I think a lot of people, if they don't know what they want, then it's hard to see it, so I always recommend people, I'm a matching supporter, so I always recommend people to have that list of like, what is it that you're looking for? Because I believe in the law of attraction. And I think that the universe does send you people that do fit those boxes if you know specifically what you are looking for. And not a crazy list, but just like you said, those 3 things that was very important to you, and anyways, and I love how much, Hyoyoung, your effort, A for effort. You did so well. And I think that that's important too. And I think, if, people that are listening out there, if you really care and you're in this process with somebody, or you want to pursue someone, making that extra effort to show that you care goes a really, really long way, especially for women. It goes a really long ways. And yeah, so you're very thoughtful. Anyways, you guys have a really cute story also, and thank you for sharing and being a good testimony that marriage works even at a young age. It does work. So anyways, thank you. If anybody has any questions, please put it in the chat. Yeah. So thank you. Maybe Isaac, I'll roll it over to you. If there's any questions, put in the chat, and Isaac and I will take care of them. And the couples will come back on.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Shizuka. Thank you once again to both the couples. That was a lot of fun to listen to and to get to know your stories more. So I'm gonna go first to the questions in the Q&A from our audience. So this is for both couples. You can just maybe share a few points. Do you have any practical advice for those wanting to become the best candidates? And whichever one of you feels ready, you can go ahead and answer first.
Well, I guess I can start. I would say that I think one thing that we really need to focus on is sort of our own personal development. So both, well, that would include your emotional intelligence, sort of your spiritual centering, really understanding why you want to be blessed. We don't want to make the mistake of feeling so caught up in wanting someone to love you, just focusing on that aspect and loving the idea of marriage without really conceptualizing that you can't bring two immature people together and expect that the marriage is just going to go off without a hitch. So it really takes a lot of introspection, a lot of looking at yourself, seeing areas where you need to mature further. If you know that you have some, let's say, emotional challenges, if it's, you're quick to anger, or you have insecurity issues regarding your partner, or, whatever these issues may be, they're not things that can just be swept under the rug and hope that marriage and the blessing will be a quick fix for it. These are things that will rear their ugly heads if you don't deal with them on a personal level before entering the process. So I think it's really important to be honest with yourself about those things that you need to personally develop or work on prior to looking to form a union with another person, because that is a lifelong commitment under God that we are, we're putting forward, and we don't want to be making the mistake of jumping the gun just out of, loneliness, or everyone seems to be in love, and those are the kind of things that I think we have to be conscious of in this process.
Yeah, I would think there's a couple of practical things too. I really believe like you are who you're surrounded by, and you really need to check who you're surrounding your life with. If these people, or even just habits or things, are not healthy, like this is a time to start cutting them off. And I think also and yeah, definitely surrounding yourself with people that really uplift you and help you to become better will naturally help you want to improve yourself and be ready. And I think also just another thing is learning. I said it before, but learning to let little things go. If it's very hard to let go of like grudges, or if it's hard to stop having people, or stop thinking about what other people think of you, or if you get upset easily, those are things now that you can work on. Now would be the time to work on it. That way you don't bring that into a relationship. I think that's part of maturity too, is you really want to be your best self for someone else. That way you can grow more together in other areas that are important, instead of like a lot of areas that you could have done on your own. Not saying that everything goes away before a matching, but I think just being aware and being cognizant of the areas that you need to grow in is a great start.
Great, thank you. Any other points to add? Good?
Good.
Oh, good, okay. Thank you, Leilani and Hyomi. All right, we'll go to the next question. As a matching candidate, so I guess when you're a matching candidate, what red flags did you not want from other potential candidates? And maybe we could add on to that, what were some red flags that you realized later weren't so big or so important?
Well, I mean, everyone's different. I think for me, I just kind of looking for a spouse that had a good relationship with their parents, because I feel like that kind of carries over. you know, or a good relationship with their siblings, someone that's close to their family. Because I just feel like if you're close to your family, well-rounded, I just, you know, I feel like that's a well-rounded person at least, you know. So that's, you know, I mean, every family is different, and I'm not gonna immediately see that as a red flag and, you know, discredit them. If, you know,
Right.
every family is different, you know. Some people have hardships and, you know, burdens and such. But I mean, for me at least, you know, that was my.
I guess you didn't see it maybe as a red flag, so more as like a plus, like something that would have been really helpful to see is, you know, yeah, having a good relationship with your parents or having good communication, if possible. Yeah.
Right.
Great, thank you, Hyoyoung. Anything to add?
Yeah, so for me, I would support that. You basically look at the individual and try to come to an understanding as to certain grounds that you kind of cherish. For me, it was more about faith and the individual having a sense of soundness, you know, and know what is it exactly they're aspiring to achieve. What is it they would like to have? You know, those qualities are like flags that you would say, okay, this individual is serious about this. This individual is sound in this manner, and as such, am I sound in this manner? Is it what I'm looking for in an individual? Should I go forward?
So I guess a green flag.
Yeah, it's more like a green flag.
I would say, I guess, like to address the red flag aspect, at least for me, it was really important that the person had a sense of their own identity. And if I kind of wanted to steer clear of emotional immaturity or just general immaturity. That is just something that I personally value. Having grown up as the eldest of a family of 5, I've always kind of had to be in that role of sort of helping to nurture and raise my younger brothers. And I was really looking for someone who already had, you know, that level of maturity, and that I'd feel like I wouldn't have to also be raising my husband, you know. So that was important to me also.
Right, thank you. Thank you to the both of you. All right, the next question is for the male panelists. Do you have any advice for a candidate who is close to graduating college and soon to attain a job?
All right, I guess really just knowing who you are and knowing your flaws and recognizing your strength, and, you know, just knowing that, you know, this is something you're going to bring into a relationship. So you really have to know who you are. I mean, it seemed like what Hyomi said, someone that, you know, knew who they are as an individual. I mean, I feel like that goes all around for both males and females, you know.
I mean, I'm not a male, but can I just chip in? I feel like, you know, I don't know exactly what like the point of this question, but I think maybe it's like wondering about job security and bringing that into a relationship. Is that what? That's kind of what I'm getting from it. But I feel like as long as you're driven, you know, that will come, and working on yourself, as you're saying, is more important. But of course, those can be done hand in hand too. Like as you're graduating, as you're trying to look for a job, like still showing your best self. Like it'll all come together, I think. Sorry, I'm not a male.
Yeah, well, that's correct. It's all about knowing yourself, knowing what is it you as an individual would like to achieve, and is kind of like putting yourself in the position to mirror what you would want to have if you're going to direct this as an individual coming out of grad school and would like your partner also coming out of grad school to achieve certain things. Like for me, as an individual coming out of grad school, my whole perception and plans were, okay, I'm going to be an individual who is going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And as such, I'm doing this not for me, but for the sake of my partner. And the partner that I'm looking for then should mirror that. So it's all about looking at yourself and seeing more about what you would want to bring rather than what you would, you know, want to see specifically in an individual coming out of grad school. That'd be my
Thank you. Anything to add?
Uh,
All right. Thank you, both of you, both couples. Okay, next one. To the panelists, looking back, what books or advice from others helped you in the matching process? Maybe if there are ones that like really stuck out. Books or advice from others.
We read Men Are From Mars and Women
Oh,
From
that one's
Venus.
a good book.
And
Man.
that one we were like, oh my God. And that was one thing that kind of helped us to see how, you know, our differences were compatible.
Right. I definitely felt like with, our issue for a year and a half, I was trying to figure out what was going on, and that when I read that book, I was like, damn, all right, I was doing all wrong, I guess. I'm trying to fix things when I'm supposed to just listen to her, I guess.
And I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to give you it was just really good to hear like, oh, that's how men work. And that's why we're like having some discrepancies, is because we don't think the same. And once we were able to understand that, I was like, ding,
yeah,
that was good.
It's easy to read. It's fun to read too. I mean, it also helps, just knowing people around you. Psychology, I mean, that's good.
Great, thank you.
For me, I actually distinctly remember when I first learned about the 5 love languages in that book, and I think everyone knows about that, but I was definitely in like maybe my preteens, like my younger teens. And that made so much sense to me, because the way that individuals both receive and give love can be very different. And the way that, especially in a romantic relationship, the way that we sort of feel valued by our partner can take many different forms. So as soon as I read that, I was like, this totally makes sense. I am sold on it. I am very aware of my 2 dominant love languages. They're different from my husband's. And so that's also, something to be aware of, but I think that helps us navigate it better, because for me, I'm a very affectionate, physical person. I like hugs, things like that. And sometimes, that doesn't naturally occur. Not to put you on the spot here, but it doesn't actually occur to him because it's also cultural. He grew up in a family where they weren't necessarily super huggy with each other. And generally that's just not a big cultural thing. Also things like, holding hands in public, even something like that, it's not really as much of a cultural norm. So while Americans love to hug and grab hands and all of that, that wasn't necessarily, his framework. So, I think being conscious of that and understanding that we operate different ways and that he feels love through acts of service and different things like that, I thought that book was a really great guideline for knowing how your partner works. So that's what I would say.
Great, thank you. Yeah, both really great suggestions, recommendations. Right, I think just realizing that you're 2 different people is such a big step, and really important to know that and to come to that realization and accept that. All right, thank you. Let's go to the next one. I didn't really hear this come up so much, but if there was anything you can comment. Throughout the matching process, were there any parental issues involved? Like maybe the parents didn't support the marriage, or was there no parent involved based on a separation of their own? So any difficulty with parents on either side?
No, my parents are very supportive.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a difficulty, but maybe some people might relate. When I started talking about the matching, my parents, I love them. I love my mom. I love my dad. But my dad was kind of the type of person, he's very lovey and showy, but it's hard for him to talk deep about things. And I think I had some trouble because whenever I wanted to talk about the matching with him, like, I think it was too deep for him. Like, he had to change the subject, and that was a little tough for me. Trying to just, I'm like, don't you want to know like how I'm feeling about this? And so I did turn to my mom a lot. And I know my dad really supported me, but I think just personality wise, it was a little, you know, he shows everything through little things, but having like an actual deeper conversation, it was just hard to have. And I think that was a little tough for me. But I did rely on my mom, and I knew my dad did support me in the decisions that I made, as long as, you know, I was talking about it with them. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think that's a pretty relatable situation.
Along that process, I'm not quite sure. Well, the parents that I have, they weren't like pushy type of a parents. They educated you, they guided you, but you had to make your decision, and the decisions you make, they would respect that. So they were basically just sitting, waiting. I knew that after for me to make a decision about this process, and then I would receive advice from them. But during the process before of me getting ready, whether I'm going to do this or not, um, they weren't really pushy in that regard, but advice afterwards, after you would have made your decision.
Yes, I mean, my parents were just super excited about the whole thing. So we didn't really have any pushback. They were just very on board, very excited. You know, I'm also the byproduct of an interracial marriage. So my parents were very excited about it. And, you know, they encourage as much diversity as possible. If it was going to happen that way, that's the way that they would have wanted it. You know, it was obviously coincidental that that's what happened, but my parents were very much about, you know, like wanting us to, you know, be blessed to people of different races, different cultures, different nationalities. They were all about that. So we were good in their book.
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is for Leilani, but I can't understand it. If the person who wrote that could...
I think they might have said, what helped you overcome your doubts?
What helped you? Okay.
I teach third grade, so I'm able to decipher everything. But I think I just needed time. I think sometimes, and I did have doubts for a while, but one thing that just really helped is I really tried to give it time. I didn't just cut it out and say, I'm not feeling this, so I'm done. I definitely, you know, said, I kept trying to pray about it and try to think about it, try to look at different perspectives and try to really see him for who he was. And, you know, it was kind of like, it wasn't just a snap decision. It was more of a longer process of just how I was able to really see and understand him for who he was. But really, I didn't know him well at all at the time. And so my doubts are more of, I don't know this person. I see that we have a lot of differences. And I think the one thing that really pushed me through is that the little differences didn't matter because he had everything that I was praying for. So yeah, once I saw that, I was able to see him in like a completely different light.
Thank you. Had it all, Hyoyoung. That's what it was. Thank you. Actually, I want to follow up on that. I just want to let everybody know it's 9:01 now, but we have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get through a few more. If you need to leave, you can, but we're going to be going a little bit longer, just letting everyone know. Thank you for being with us. But I wanted to follow up with Hyoyoung. You know, during that period of, you said 1.5 years, or, you know, building that foundation of trust and knowing each other. I mean, as a guy, I can imagine that wasn't easy. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to that, of, you know, how you dealt with that and how you, you know.
Well, I mean, I did a big proposal in front of 300 people or so. I mean, like, it was kind of hard.
Yeah.
I was funny because I was thinking, like, she said she wasn't really, you know, sure about this relationship. And I remember I was in New Yorker Hotel, not New York Hotel. I was at 43rd Street, right? I'm like going up the stairs. I'm like, holy crap, this doesn't work out. This is gonna be really bad. Like, I've proposed in front of so many people. I'm gonna be like, it's like, you know, I got to make this work. I got to make this work. And I mean, it was a very stressful year and a half for me, at least, you know. I think during that period too, I did a lot of, I guess I tried to distract myself too, but I did a lot of running. I run like a couple miles each week just to kind of help with the stress of our relationship not working out, you know, praying, you know, just patience and trying my best. I mean, I think really what it came down to was just, I tried my best, and then if, you know, it was really up to her if she wanted to accept it or not, you know. I mean, it was very, you know, she was 19, she was 18 and I was 19 when we got matched.
So you were 20 or a year and a half apart, yeah.
Yeah, I was 20 and she was only 18. So that's, I mean, right now, I don't think a lot of people get matched at that age either right now.
Yeah.
So that's a really tough thing to put someone at that age, you know, in that position. So, I mean, I guess for me, it was really just patience and reflection and just trying my best. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. All right, next one for both couples. Did you hear testimonies of matching from older BCs when you were younger? And if so, what did you think about that? Or was it helpful or make you scared?
I think for me, a lot of the testimonies that I heard were of those who had gone to true parents matching.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was a little bit scared off by that, to think that such a monumental decision could be made in a single moment. And you know, I think my faith still really had to develop a lot around that time. I'm thinking, you know, coming out of high school into college days. But I think from that, my personal takeaway was that I felt that I could have a very, you know, open channel of communication with my parents, and my parents, you know, I had a very strong connection with them. And so feeling that I could, you know, I could really feel true parents' spirit and God's spirit through my parents. For me, my choice, you know, having listened to all of these testimonies, was to pursue the parents matching. And I think I felt that I connected with that method pretty early on. I would say early 20s, late teens. And that was probably what came out of my listening to older BCs talk about it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it was like good testimonies that were very like, oh, it's all working. And so I thought the matching process was like this idealistic thing that's like, oh, as long as you find someone like and you're focused on God, everything will be great. And then once I got it for myself, it was like, oh, this is real. Like, this is real life, you know? It's not always just butterflies and rainbows, but you really have to work. And, you know, engagement and marriage is one of the biggest things you do, and it takes a lot of work to make it to, it took a lot of work for us to make it to where we are today. So I think I didn't really get a lot of testimonies when I was younger of like maybe how they worked out things. And I think that would have been really helpful, because it definitely made me have, and I'm sure, you know, they're trying to say all the good things because they want people to get matched and blessed. But I think there's also the reality of, you know, there could be things that make it difficult. There are challenges, you know, not everything that God presents is supposed to be given easily. And but I think it's good to hear the different challenges, and once you go through them, it's really worth it. I wish I heard more of that, because I think it did paint an idealistic picture for me when I was younger.
Thank you. I think that's one of the great things about this series that we've been doing, is that we get to hear, you know, both sides, the good, happy times, but also the process and the challenges that come with the blessing. So thank you. Anything to add, Hyoyoung?
No, that's it.
Good. All right. Thank you. So maybe this can be the final question for both couples. What was the most challenging aspect of your matching process to break through before committing? I'll say it again. What was the most challenging aspect of your matching process to break through before committing?
Since this is the final question, I think I'll answer like two parts of that. I'll mention just the matching aspect and then post blessing. So we I would say that the first 4 years of our relationship, or the growth of our relationship, was long distance. So for us, a major hurdle, not really a hurdle actually, but it had its challenges. I mean, we did have the time difference. For 2 years, I served in Swaziland. After getting matched to Godis, I didn't see him for another 7 or 8 months, I think. And then it was, another 6 months and another 6 months. So before we actually lived together, after getting blessed, we had only physically visited each other maybe a handful of times. Maybe like five times in like 4 years or something like that. So I think I don't know that we necessarily had major challenges coming up to the commitment of it. We were sort of on the same wavelength in terms of
we had a word, frequency.
Yes, we had our little we called it a frequency when we were both on the same page about certain things. And I mean, just like Leilani and Hyoyoung, we made a commitment within 2 months, and then we were like, okay, we're doing this. We're all in. I barely know you, but we're going to do it because it feels right. And I just wanted to comment on just challenges that we've also navigated, after getting blessed. Again, just going back to the cultural dynamic, the way that we both handle conflict or disagreements and sharing differing points of view. They were different. I'm often told that I'm very American about certain things, which I think is really funny. I'm also an extrovert, so I'm very to the point about things. I don't like letting things fester. I'm not passive aggressive. I'm very direct. If I'm upset, you will know that I am upset. But for me, it's just a way to, get it out of my system. And then my husband is very controlled and reserved about sharing how he feels about things. And he would sometimes, in order to not come into conflict with me over it wasn't usually a huge thing, but some issue, he would just rather not mention it. And just kind of push it down and be like, it's not worth it. So I'm just not, so we had to find a way for us to be able to navigate disagreements or differing points of view in a way that we were still able to be honest with each other. And I can say that I've definitely grown a lot as a person thanks to my husband, because they're just dynamics that you're with someone all the time, and especially during this quarantine period, we're literally together like 24/7. So there's just a lot of growth that happens, and I think people just need to understand that it's going to be a constant growing process. Leilani mentioned this a little bit as well, but you kind of just sort of grow into each other. We started as two very different people who had different ways of dealing with things, who had different personalities, but we found a way to find commonalities, and it's a constant growth process. We've made a lot of progress from where we were 3 years ago or 5 years ago. A lot of maturity has happened, I think, on both sides, and that will continue to happen, and we don't ever expect that process to stop. So that's some of the challenges that we've learned to navigate.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Hyomi.
Okay, so the question, most challenging aspect of your matching process breakthrough before committing. I I don't know. I just feel like maybe I was on STF and I was already in that already in that mindset that I was going to be committing to whoever I was with. So I'm a little different from others. The 2 years STF witnessing, and the whole time my second year I was prepping for this, and I went to the point where I proposed to her, not knowing her, just so I can put out in the world, and stating that I'm committed. So everyone's different. I'm a little more extreme, I guess, but
Yeah, I think for me, it was just the challenging part was just the long distance and not knowing really who he was. And so we took our matching to like that whole year and a half just to really get to know each other and be comfortable with each other. And once we were able to do that, then we felt we were ready to commit. That was so important for me too, is just really knowing like who I'm gonna be with. So.
right.
Great, thank you. I just want to thank you both couples. Thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your story, for answering these questions. I'm sorry to the audience we couldn't get through all the questions, but we really appreciate you asking them and being with us during this time. So I just want to thank everyone. I want to hand it back to Shizuka if she has any closing words for us.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the speakers, the couples, and then also everyone that's tuning in. I think that we didn't really know how this How We Met series is gonna go, and but I think that people are finding some value in it, and I think just hearing people's stories, it gives hopefully ideas and just just ideas on like what how things happen, and like so. Anyways, we really hope that whoever is still like in this process, knowing that there is somebody out there for you, and just keep going. And and all these couples, I'm sure you can find them on Facebook if you want. Just kind of saying it. I didn't run this by the couples, but if you have a pressing question, I'm sure you can reach out to them or reach out to myself or Isaac, and we can figure that out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that being said, thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, and tune in next month.
Bye.